most southernmost seaport. Justin, what's the latest?
Well, I'll tell you what, we have some startling and remarkable new video and coming to us right from the United States Coast Guard in Corpus Christi. They had their planes up trying to do an aerial survey. Take a look at this video. Amazing what we're able to see here from this vantage point as the Coast Guard rescued 2 members of the crew of the Seacorp Power. That is the boat that is still capsized out off the coast of Louisiana in the Gulf of Mexico. And then, of course, the 4 other people who are known survivors were rescued by private vessels and private crews. Thank goodness those people were out there in very difficult conditions. Now, the saddest number I can give you is the number of 1. That is how many people we do know died as a result of this boat capsizing, the Seacorp Power. We do also know that 12 people are still missing. So the United States Coast Guard is actively engaged in this rescue operation. It has not been turned into a recovery operation. It's a search and rescue operation. Take a look right now. We just saw a plane fly over. A U.S. Coast Guard plane flew over just moments ago here, and we were able to capture the video because it's a good example of the hard work that they still have involved in this search and rescue operation. Of course, the number one thing they're looking for are the 12 missing sailors. The hope is with the crews going down under the water, the dive teams, is that maybe these people are in an air pocket and a watertight room under the Gulf of Mexico right now, submerged as this boat is capsized, that they can still be rescued. So let's all be very hopeful that that can happen. So this is going to be going on for the next long while until they have some resolution as to whether or not they know the 12 people are alive or dead, or some are dead. Let's hope they're all alive. But all this is a result of a very strong line of storms that were packing Category 1 hurricane force winds. Think about that. It was a warned severe storm system. We know that, but the Coast Guard even said this came on these sailors and this boat extraordinarily quickly, much too fast for them to be able to react, much too fast for them to be able to get back into shore and get to safety. And what happened was that Seacorp Power did capsize. It's called a lift boat. It's not necessarily the stablest of vehicles when it's on the water. It gets its stability when it puts its long legs down in right to the Gulf bed, the floor of the Gulf of Mexico, Jackie, and then eventually lifts up. And it's a kind of a strange boat, but it's something they use here on the Gulf Coast quite a bit for maintenance on oil rigs and all sorts of different things. So it's part of life here. And right now, this search is continuing. We're staying on top of the details, Jackie.
All right, thanks so much, Justin. We want to talk more about the weather conditions before and during the capsized vessel. And this is a radar image and a loop showing you the progression of the storms. It was a big complex, very large complex with a lot of lightning and strong gusty winds on the leading edge of all this. And one of the things I want to point out is right there, you can see kind of the radar performing kind of a backward C shape. That's a little bit of a bow echo or a little hook here. And that is indicative of very strong winds on the leading edge of this. Now, the location or approximate location of the ship was right about here. And notice the wind gusts across the area reached at least 70 miles per hour. So we know they were at least that strong. But oftentimes we can get what's called a wake low develop on the backside of a complex of thunderstorms like this. It doesn't happen every time, but it can create some very strong gusty winds after the rain actually stops. In fact, right when you would least expect it. So what happens is that the rain and sometimes hail will cool the air back behind it, and an area of high pressure will actually develop. This helps to cause the jet stream winds behind the storm to sink down towards the ground. That air then begins to heat up and warmer air begins to rise. So that creates another area of low pressure, which is right next to a very strong high. So when you have a big difference in pressures, that's what helps to drive those winds, and they're very close together, and that's why our winds were incredibly strong even after that leading line of storms passed. Mike?
Certainly could have been a player. And let's get an update on the search and rescue mission right now. Joining us is Captain Will Watson with the United States Coast Guard. Captain, thanks for being with us this evening. Can you update us on the situation right now?
So, as you all know, yesterday, it was about 4:28 p.m., we received a distress message, got it from a Good Sam, that the lift vessel, the Seacorp Power, about 7 nautical miles south of Fushan, capsized. And so we confirmed that the vessel had departed Port Fourchon about 1:30 or so yesterday en route to Main Pass. It was about 25 miles east. And at the time of the incident, I think as you guys were alluding to, weather was definitely challenging. I think it was even stronger. I think just pointing out to that where the incident occurred. So it was definitely a challenging environment to be out in the maritime arena. All told, though, we received a response, a stress signal about 16:28, about 4:28. About 30 minutes after that, the Coast Guard responded. Assets that currently were employed in the response include the Coast Guard cutter Glenn Harris, Coast Guard cutter Amberjack, 2 response boats, 1 H-65 helicopter, 2 H-60s, 4 HC-144s, which are fixed wing, 2 HC-130s. So we are putting a lot into this. We're giving it our best effort. Also responding are Louisiana partners, Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, Port Fourchon Harbor Patrol, Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, 7 Good Sam vessels from the community. All told, our Coast Guard rescue crews have searched more than 1,440 square miles during a combined search period of nearly 40 hours.
That's a large area for a long time, Captain. Tell us a little bit more about what your priority is right now, and weather conditions are not looking good going forward. How will that hamper your search?
We do expect some challenges with the weather, but we're going to search as long as we can reasonably and safely search. And we are currently on scene search. Personnel accountability and safety of life is our top priority. We are saturating the area with available resources to assist in the rescue mission, and will continue to do so. As of now, we've rescued 6 survivors who were safely transferred to shore. 1 person was recovered on response to on the surface of the water, and we continue to search boats for this.
That is Captain Will Watson joining us live this evening. Captain, thanks so much for the information. Best of luck to you and your crews out there. Now, as we mentioned, the Seacorp Power, not the only ship that was out there in the Gulf during these storms. We had other ships that were out there, and they reported very rough conditions. In fact, reporting high seas and wind gusts over 100 miles an hour. But we know that departed Port Fourchon, and actually, Captain just said it was maybe close to 130, cruising southeast about 4 knots. Wind report typically would be about 11 to 16 mile per hour winds with 1 to 4 foot waves. But we know the thunderstorms that came through, things changed very, very quickly. The boat capsized about 8 miles south of Grand Isle, Louisiana. That's when the U.S. Coast Guard received the distress call at about 4:30 in the afternoon. So, give you some perspective. New Orleans is right here. Port Fourchon way down to the south here, right at the very end of Louisiana, right at the water here, right? So the boat departs Port Fourchon and it comes out of the channel here and then makes its way south and east. Didn't get very far until those thunderstorms came through. And we don't know exactly yet what may have happened to the boat, but a lot of times when you get hit by these big swells, your boat gets hit broadside and it may end up losing power. But as he was mentioning, the captain was mentioning there, multiple responses from different Coast Guard stations, from Grand Isle, from New Orleans, from Corpus Christi. They've got helicopters, planes, and boats all responding, not to mention the private vessels, the Good Samaritan vessels that were out nearby that also got that distress signal and then responded. All right, so let's look at this vehicle, this the vessel. Justin Michaels, you heard there in his live report, he's trying to describe for you what this vessel is. That's a look at it, okay? Flat bottom, there's not a lot to it, folks. And these things that look like masts here, those are actually the lifts, if you will. So the boat's down here. When it gets down to one, think of it as this. Think of it as a mobile platform. Think of it as a mobile oil platform, all right? So this is a flat bottom boat here. Once it gets out to its destination, then these are basically pilings that go down into the water and they sit on the sea floor, and the boat then lifts up out of the water, all right? Basically to the height of, say, an oil platform, and then it performs maintenance, repairs, stuff like that. This is what the Seacorp Power then ends up looking like. This is the bottom of the boat right here. See this big base plate right there? That's what's going to go down to the sea floor, and then the boat's going to ride up in essence, that big lift right there and get itself out of the water. And these also have some cranes on them, so that it can move equipment, from one to the other, or even people if need be. Now, you see the boat, it's capsized over, right? So let's say, best case scenario, everyone gets off the boat, they've got their life jackets on, they're in the water, they're awaiting rescue. They've got bad conditions. Winds were gusting 40 to 60 miles per hour for hours afterwards, as many as 12 hours after it capsized. Those were the wind conditions, which means you had very, very high waves. Not to mention water temperatures that weren't frigid, but they weren't warm. Low 70s. Now, overnight, air temperature came up, and that's a good thing. It went from the mid-60s when the boat capsized up to 77 overnight, as reported by a nearby buoy. But those conditions, with the wind, with the waves, with cold water temperatures, hypothermia is almost a certainty. All right? Now, what may have caused the boat to capsize? We see this play out several times with big thunderstorms or hurricanes where a boat lists and you've got problems with an engine failure, right? So let me kind of draw a cross-section of a boat like this for you. Oil intake, going to be right about there. In normal instance, if you're full of oil, you're in good shape. Sometimes if you don't have full oil, though, maybe you got this amount of oil down here. Well, the oil gets sucked up the oil intake, it feeds the engine, and everything operates smoothly. If the boat, however, is listing to one side, let's say, it's hit broadside by the waves, well, then what happens? Your oil intake is here, but your oil now, all because of gravity, sits down here. So sometimes what happens, and we've seen this in cruise ships, we saw it with the El Faro that sank in the Caribbean during a hurricane, the oil intake is not sucking in oil anymore. So what happens? The engine shuts down, you lose propulsion. And so the captain can't then turn the bow of the ship into the waves and ride them that way. It could potentially be a sitting duck, hit broadside by those waves, and then capsize. We'll have more on the Sea Core Power Lost at Sea.
Carrier, the original spark.